We're live, Mr. Wade. Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your temporary host until the chairman for tonight uh, appears, or if he doesn't make it, then I'll just continue on with the alternative show that we had planned. Um, I have with us tonight Mr. Wade, or senior panelist, and um, my number one always available, or always, making sure that
Yes, sir.
he backs me up. Uh,
Yes,
um,
sir.
I'll just follow the uh, pattern that we use on our show,
Yes,
and
sir.
this is tonight's show is Belizean Affairs number 316. 316. We want to say
Yeah.
thanks to all of you who have been along with us on the ride, and we hope that we have justified your time spared and that you have derived some positive public benefit from our endeavor, because that is what
Amen.
it's all about.
Amen
Thank
for
you very
that.
much again, and I'll just go ahead and say a prayer, sir. Uh,
Yes,
Divine
sir.
loving Father, once again we come before thy presence to say thanks for accepting us, for expression of gratitude to you for first of all having given us the privilege of life, and secondly for allowing us to still be alive among our family members, friends, and loved ones in fairly good health. We also pray that thou must grant us more health, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, endurance, perseverance. Give us the fortitude and the strength to be able to speak truth to power when needed. And we pray that thou must continue to bless our family members, each and every one of them. Thou knowest them by name and number. Thou knowest our hearts, our desire, even our most secret thoughts, loving Father. We pray that thou must continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership. That thou would continue to bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership. And in a special way, that thou would continue to bless those people who are in hurricanes, tornadoes, uh, earthquakes, flooding, war zones, all different types of ills and devastation that suffering on the face of this earth. We pray that thou must continue to guide and bless and protect us, provide food and shelter for those who are in need, and we pray that thou must bless this show as well, that we may be able to produce a fair enough show tonight that will benefit our people and country. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I yield back, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Leonard.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you for that warm prayer. And country needs prayer. The world needs prayer. It's too much ills in the world today. So sad, But um, in my personal view, is that the end time is near. The end time is near. And again, Leonard, it's always a pleasure to sit here in your company and welcome our viewers, both at home and abroad. And for those who will tune in a little later, we always give gratitude and thanks to those who support us in viewing and sharing. Thank you.
Amen.
Hopeful that tonight show will be of some benefit to our viewers.
Amen.
And like we always say, Leonard, we are not a church program, or we are not pastors or evangelists or preachers, but
We are the alternative, sir.
we
We do our
thank
best.
you, thank you, sir. We do acknowledge and know that, and we know that there is a God, and that's the God that we
Amen.
serve.
Amen.
Um, again, give thanks and praise to the Almighty for this day, because tomorrow is promised to no one. On that note, I will continue on Proverbs. Do a reading from Proverbs chapter 12, 1 to 10. And it reads, whoever loves discipline, love knowledge.
Amen.
But he who hates reproof is stupid. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of evil device he condemns. No one is established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will never be moved. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband,
Amen.
but she who brings shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are just, the counsel of the wicked are deceitful. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright delivers them. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. A man is condemned according to his good sense, but one of twisted mind is despised. Better to be lowly and have a servant than to play the great man and lack bread. Whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. Whoever looks or whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuit lacks sense. That's my reading. Uh, Proverbs chapter 12, 1
Could you give
through
us a
10.
public announcement in regards to accidents and all this mayhem, and even probably the about the disgraceful government entering into another bastardization of our constitution in regards to SOE, pretending that there's no constitution and there's no law other than what comes out of their head. Mr. Wade, please.
Thank you, Leonard.
You're welcome, sir.
Like I say, all the time, it seems that every day it's something new. Every day, um, the poor and less fortunate lacks, you know, um, whatever is deserving to them. Every day we see how past and present government leaders continue to bastardize um, our constitution, continue to no regards for for the well-being of the people. We see where their interest is at. you know their interest seems to only in the path of them getting rich, them making deals, them rewarding their friends and cronies, and it's a never ending saga. And the way they behave, and as for this government now and our leaders that we have, they're all power drunk because of the immense power that you, the people, gave them, the mandate that you gave them. You the people, gave them that liquor to drink so they can be drunk. So if you didn't go and overwhelming supported them, maybe we would have been having some better situation in this country. These leaders that we have lack no morals. Their attitude is like, wow, this is what I'm gonna do, and I did it. So big deal. Do your worst. Do whatever you want to do. I already did it. And they're just waiting for someone to step up to call them out, and then they shut them down. They cut them down, and they go the extra mile to discredit that person in every which way, just for that person not to publicize their evil deeds. And my people, sober reminder, we are in the hurricane season. Please be mindful. Um, those who have to run from the city as usual, run to higher ground. Ask your area representative, ask your leaders, where are you going to run to? If they have provided any hurricane shelters for you to, adequate shelters for you to go. And it's so sad, again, where is their priority? We are lacking 2025. There is not adequate hurricane shelter in the country of Belize. And just, my people, protect yourself, your livelihood, your family, and your property, because only you can do that. And again, please be mindful on our deplorable roads and highways, and in the villages, in the towns, across the nation. Roads are deplorable, and it's not getting any better. So just be mindful. We see the horrific traffic accidents that keep happening on a daily basis. So be mindful. Um, Again, we see the mayhem, in the city. Um, the illegal SOEs. We see who are the ones that get caught up. We see where the priority of your leaders are. So you decide, my people. On that note, I want to pass it back to Leonard, because like you said, we don't expect the chairman, to, because chairman for tonight has not, you know, showed up yet. But in the meantime, I think Leonard had something that he wanted to depart to the public. Go ahead, Leonard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Red. Okay. Uh, we have been trying to spend whatever time we get available to peruse or go through or deal with some of the PCC recommendations. It's not final yet in terms of the Prime Minister having acted upon it, and I presume that Cabinet and the Prime Minister will act on that recommendation to end up with what is it that they really want to put the House for a vote, since they know they have a super majority. And with their hopes to change the constitution so that they will be the one to determine how the laws and the rules of the country will be run, rather than as according to our present constitution, because that this present constitution, after they get through with their shenanigans, will be no more. And then, according to them, you'll be living under what is it that they put to you as their rules and regulations and laws that they want to govern you by. Now, recall that for the last 40 odd years of our independence, we've been governed by two mass parties, both of which, one more so than the other, have governed us with treachery, I will call it. I'm going to use some heavy words because, I mean, I don't want to spare no words and be diddle-daddling with what these jackals are trying to do with us, okay? Because it's not funny. And this is not no time to be holding back no, to be trying to play nice guys with people who are actually trying to destroy what we have so that they can inherit what we have and do what they want with what we have. That's basically, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Them grabbing power, using us to help them grab the power with which they will use, misuse, and abuse us. Because after this present constitution is gone, like I said, according to them, because I'm not too sure it's going to be gone anytime soon. Okay, I mean that's my solace. I, I might be on the wrong side of the street and looking at the wrong part of the road, or whatever the end result is. As of right now, I still feel satisfied and hopeful that these jackals don't know what the hell they're doing and how to be able to get it done without getting themselves run over. But that's their prerogative, you know. I can't control them, nor is it my right to stop them from trying to do what they're trying to do. But it is my right to look after the well-being of my country as a blood-sworn vanguard of my country. So while it might not be my right to stop them, it doesn't mean that I won't get in the middle, and press my flesh in the process. But that's near here nor there for tonight's show. Let me get to the show itself. As I said earlier, we have been going through this process with the PCC recommendation and fleshing out some of what their recommendations were and compare it to what the current constitution stipulates. Since most people, as we are already aware, are not familiar with their constitution and have not been given the opportunity to look at this material and be able on their own to say, well, they're in agreement with it or in disagreement with it. Because I don't think they're going to have a referendum. And if they ever do have a referendum, it's not going to be on the whole package. They will not give the whole material out there for the people to peruse and for people to read and see for themselves how dastardly these guys are. What they'll try and do is just put one simply yes or no ballot. Make those of you who are comfortable with them being your leader as a majority, vote to let them do what they want to do, and you will trust them to do the right thing, of course. We know what that has gotten us so far, like I said, over the last 40 years of independence. Anyhow, I'll start with item number 50, recommendation number 56. They're proposing under recommendation number 56 to amend for removal. No. I'm sorry. I jumped one number too quick. I need to read 55 first. So recommendation 55 says amend to remove the Governor General's powers. Now, as a born Belizean, okay, and as someone who I believe that I am, a well-schooled person and a knowledgeable person, and I don't play games when it comes to the territorial integrity of my country. Like I said, I'm a blood-sworn vanguard of my country, and I equal myself to any soldier in the army in the defense of my country. I'll give my life for it, and I'll take other lives on its behalf. I'm very resolute when it comes to that particular purpose or issue, because that is what what the rest of my life consists of. Okay. These people are proposing to amend our current constitution to remove the Governor General's powers. Now, mind you, it is the Governor General that they go to after they win the election to get some powers lent to them or loaned to them, right? Or authorized to them or assented to them. So then, if they remove the Governor General, who is going to assent powers to them? Because they have no powers right now to remove the Governor General in the first place, unless they are ready to commit sedition. Besides that, the Governor General, if she knew that this is what they were trying to do, and she went along with it and assented to that document that came out of the Belize House of Representatives, out of Cabinet first, and then out of the Belize House of Representatives via the Prime Minister, it was the Governor General's obligation to not enter into such conspiracy with these jackals, to eviscerate her position out of our constitution, and also to eviscerate her boss's position as the head of state out of our constitution, in order for them to somehow or another claim themselves to be head of state, because they have not such power vested in them. Even the Governor General doesn't have that power to vest that power in them or to assent to them, as she already did, which was basically, for all intents and purposes, a bastardized ascension. It was not done probably with enough knowledge or foresight or recognition or understanding that that is the case. Otherwise, she could be banished because she serves at the pleasure of the head of state. Okay, I hope people are understanding what I'm talking about or what I'm saying. We're dealing with some heavy stuff. I try to make it as light as possible. I try explain it in the simplest possible way that I think it could be explained, without having to get myself in a situation of being blackguardish and the cuss up and the rail up and the I don't think I need to go there. I have enough of a good command of the English language, which is what we speak in Belize as our primary language. And this show is about Belize and Belizean affairs. And therefore, I don't think I'm shortchanging the process by expressing and explaining what I'm saying the way I'm saying it. I believe the average Creole person back home understands what the hell I'm talking about or what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking over nobody's head. I'm not using all of big words like I normally would use, to just cut the conversation start or the presentation short sometimes. Because I have that bad habit too, you know. Instead of saying a whole lot of words to try to get my point across, I use some words that could mean a whole lot of different things, or make some statements, some short statements. I call them banner statements, which deals with a whole lot of different things all in one. But anyhow, let me get out of that particular. I'm tending to belabor and strain from the focus that I really want people to grasp. I hope that most people are hearing what I'm saying and understanding what it is I'm saying. God, like I said, I'm not going to curse no bad words. That's not who and what I am about. I may get flustered. I may get frustrated. I may get upset just like any average human being. But from my vantage point on this particular platform, I have to comport to a certain minimum requirement for public wave purposes. But some of these things that we're talking about here right now on this particular program and these issues are very treacherous, very disheartening to know that the very same people that we have in our country acting as our leaders are the Trojan horses that are leading us down this path of destructiveness. I would like to ask, which one of them is willing to put themselves on the horse at the front of the defense of we country? Okay? If they want to take up arms and fight the present head of state, you know, to acquire that power, or as I previously stated before, on many other occasions, as a matter of fact, that they're trying to get us, the Belizean public, to act as sovereign citizens, demanding that we current head of state cease and desist acting in his capacity as head of state. Now, I think that Mr. Beizean and his merry makers and his cabal actually bit off a little bit more than they were able to chew. Because in the first place, they took the chunk, they bite the chunk off. But maybe the man and got teeth in their mouth. Then they try bite this thing with their gum and hope that they'll succeed. You cannot overthrow a head of state unless you're prepared to commit sedition against that head of state. And if you're not going to go to the Belizean public for them to participate in the process as a plebiscite, as is required under our constitution, if you're going to take out or remove any of these primary fundamental basis of our constitution, the basic structure of our constitution, as well as all the different elements that makes up the type of governance that we today enjoy. If you're not going to follow the rules, try and do it the right way, and you end up doing it the wrong way, which is to say, well, we're going to call this thing the People's Constitution Commission, because, of course, we use the people as the front, and we won't hide behind. We are not going to be leaders. At least that's what the leaders are attempting to come off. They're not pretending to be leaders. They are pretending to be following the people, and it is the people that is on the front committing the sedition on their behalf, or demanding that the head of state vacates that position so that these jackals can take it over and give us worse governance than what we have had so far after 40-odd years of independence. They are not the only one in the world that are trying to do that, by the way. If anybody is paying attention to geopolitics or international affairs or world politics or world affairs, number 55 goes on to describe the details of that recommendation by saying, replace the Governor General's function in emergency powers with the Prime Minister and the National Assembly. That is that as regards to emergency decrees, they will have no need to go to the Governor General to get any kind of ascension of powers or authority to then justify them being able to make legislation which then would have the power of law behind it. The power of law that we have behind our current constitution and our current law making and law structures and our constitution rests with the head of state. How can you wrestle that away without committing sedition? Or without somebody else committing that sedition on your behalf? When the current crop of leaders that we have in our country don't have the fortitude enough to be able to deal with us honestly and up front. The legislature or the National Assembly is already empowered to make laws, but those laws must conform to the constitution of the country. They can't make any law that overthrow the constitution or that is violative of the constitution, because then any such law, according to the very constitution itself, section 2, subsection 1, states that the constitution of Belize is the highest law of our land. And if any other law, such as what the legislators would make, is not in conformance with the Constitution and is violative of the Constitution, it's out of the parameters or purview of the Constitution, then that law is ultra-virusing the Constitution. And that particular law, to the extent of the inconsistencies, is null, it's void. It has no power of legality behind it, because it violates the very force and authority that allows things to be classified as either legal or illegal in our country, our constitution. But again, as we all are aware, at least by now, after 316 programs that we have broadcast here on this particular platform and others on other platforms, we are aware that the present system of governance, the leadership, do not acknowledge the constitution as being the preeminent law of the land. It says under 56, it says section 22.1 in the definition of court shall be amended to remove the reference to Her Majesty in council. I'll skip over part 3 of the Constitution, which deals with citizenship, because that's a long and very detailed amount of reading on issues that we'll have to deal with eventually when it comes to that. Because I'm jumping around. Remember now, there are some pieces that I'm leaving to go back to afterwards. I still don't see our chairman for tonight yet, so I'll just continue. Mr. Wade, could you give me a heads up in case you see any of them come on, so that I'm not focused on this and then I have them sit in the background, because this is not the program for tonight. This is just a fill-in program for tonight. And I don't want to take their time, from what they want to present. So I'm just using up the time currently.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just give me a heads up. I see like I think it's Gregory or chairman for the night is in the background. He must be loading something right now. So I'll give him another couple of minutes. Anyhow, I need to jump beyond that and go to part 4 of the Constitution of Belize, where it deals with the
I think he's
government.
somebody. I don't know who that is, but
Yeah,
it's Greg.
it
Yeah.
looks like Greg. He could put himself on when he's ready. So obviously, he might
Okay.
be trying to work on something else in the background. Let me just get these couple of words out my mouth before we have to terminate. Then, right? In reference to the Governor General, the recommendation number 61 says, amend to abolish the office of the Governor General. Now, we have been saying that for a long time now, that is what these jackals were after, right? Trying to get rid of the Governor General's position, trying to get themselves put in a situation. From the time they started with this constitutional amendment and modification process, the objective was to try and get our constitution to a state of being pliable enough for them to grasp the governance power of the country under their wings. Now, these jackals are willing to take on the power of governance, right? And the maximum power of governance, that is to say, the head of state position. But which one of them have ever negotiated any treaty that allows for our defense as a country to feel safe, to get rid of what we have, to take on what they want us to take on. Which one of them have ever spent any minute or second of their lifetime trying to do the right thing for us? How the devils do they expect to take us into a situation where we become a defenseless pauper? Our country is small. We don't got the money to pay the teachers there. How we can build one army to defend ourselves for any of the neighbors that we have? But everybody, seem to be going along with the program that these guys are trying to implement, and nobody seems to be caring about the final outcome. In fact, nobody expects any outcome other than just whatever is it that comes out that these guys said, and that will solve whatever the problems are. Uh, recommendation, Greg? Oh, okay. Um,
Chairman is
right. That's
with
what I
us
was
here
about.
now.
Okay.
Leonard.
I was about to say that I'll stop what I was doing and just yield to the chairman for his program for the night. Greg?
Good night, gentlemen. It's
Good night,
always
my
a
brother.
pleasure to sit with you guys virtually on the platform. Good night to you, the people at home and abroad. Thanking you for tuning in to this our 316th episode of Belizean Affairs.
Okay.
Gentlemen, I want to go straight to the ruling from Judge Shandura of the High Court and the redistricting case. It is most important that I bring this up because I do believe that this said judge is working with the government, and I won't be ashamed to say that. I have my reason why I say that, and I hope anyone out there who is listening to me will understand why. I have sit here on this platform and I have showed the difference between res judicata and estoppel. I have on more than one occasion specified that there was no ruling on the merit. Therefore, any party had the right to take that case back to the High Court, regardless of who.
Mr. Chairman, on that point, you would
Go
be
ahead, sir.
you would be 1,000% correct, sir, on that last couple of words that came out of your mouth. If we were dealing with a court system in our country like we had before, or at least as a minimum, a court system that has proper judicial temperament and judges that are not compromised and or self-impeached by lying in public. Okay, I hope I'm not overemphasizing what I'm emphasizing by asking you to give me a chance to come in on the few last words that you said, because I wanted to specifically allow the public to hear my interpretation of what it is that we are trying to talk about here tonight. That is that what you just said again, I'm going to repeat for emphasis. What the words that came out of your mouth just now stipulated was 1,000% correct. If, remember that conjunctive word, if, two letters, if we were dealing with a court that had proper judicial temperament and was not a compromised court that's doing favors on behalf of the government because they don't want their contracts being terminated, and they are suborning one of the third pillar of the government, That is the judiciary. They're subordinating the judiciary to the powers and the wishes of the executive. And that's a bunch of baloney, because that's a destruction of we legal system the way we knew it to be. Unfortunately, but anyhow, I'll yield back. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for allowing me the privilege, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. You are on track. But again, I will stipulate there was no res judicata or no estoppel in this matter. The matter was still open because there was not a ruling on the underlying merit. The underlying merit of the case has to do with Section 90 of the Constitution, and any ruling should have aligned with the Constitution.
Exactly.
Firstly, let me say this outright. Judges presiding over cases are bound by law to rule on the Constitution, what it says. Anything outside of that is not on the merit. So when you have a judge making a ruling, like this ruling for the redistricting, which is far-fetched, this ruling was made on procedural matter that has nothing to do with our Constitution. Procedural matter is a consent order, and a consent order does not stop a judge to rule on the merit of the case, which was to compel the government, per the consent order, to do the redistricting. So I want to get that out there clear. But in the ruling, by setting this pace the way the judge set it, is to stop any individual to try to go back to the High Court on this matter. And I want to specify this. This is exactly why I said previously, if I was taking this matter to court, I would not have taken it based on Section 90, because I believe while Section 90 set forth what should be done, it does not compel EBC or the government to do the redistricting. I personally would have taken it under the Constitution, Section 6, equal protection under the law, for violating my constitutional right not to vote in an election or not to have equal or close to equal. Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Close to equal representation.
Equal or close to equal division. And I'm not just speaking this because I believe that what I'm saying is not right. Anybody wants to look it up can go ahead and do so. But when you have judges that are trying to make other legals' minds look stupid, I have to call them out, because this ruling is a phony, baloney ruling. And I must go to the tape so you, the people, can understand why I am saying this. Let's go to the tape.
The gravity of this case, the gravity of this consent order is that Belize is on a path where in years, we are in a position where one man, one vote is the governing principle. And if you look at the expert's report, he speaks of equality of vote. the strength of voters. He does not speak of effective representation. I say that word because it's a word that I've been hearing throughout different press briefings as it relates to there must be effective representation. This report, to which the government, by virtue of the consent order, has agreed, and I have to state, the consent order never came about by virtue of a mediation, which is why we can speak of this. There is no gag order, there is no confidentiality. Both parties came to an understanding, negotiated the terms of the consent order, and so it was a decision that was made by both the claimants and the defendant, free and fair. There wasn't any free and fair, FAIR. There wasn't any intimidation. There wasn't anything handicapping both parties. We both sat down, negotiated for days, had meeting with claimants over many nights to reach this stage where we're at. And so it is the production of two sides agreeing. These are the terms that we want. However, if you note at the heading, it says the matter is stayed. The matter is stayed, providing that the claimants, they have a right as well, the defendant, to bring the matter back to the court in the event those terms to which we have agreed to are not being followed.
So there you go. The matter was stayed and they had a right to bring it back to enforce the consent order. So the ruling was based on procedural matter, not the underlying merit. What the good judge should have did was to rule on the merit, which is to force the government to proceed with the consent order instead of misleading and misguiding the public as to say this matter is res judicata or there is a estoppel, because there was no mediation, there was no judge involved except both parties coming together with that consent order. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go back in the interest of public understanding of these esoteric things that we are discussing here, Greg and Mr. Wade, on tonight's show. I want as much of the public who hear our show to be able to go along with us and understand what is it that we're talking about. Okay? So please, allow me to indulge going back a little bit further, Mr. Chairman. That is to say, in the first place, when the matter was taken up by Mr. Paco Smith and his group, the government acknowledged in the presence of the judge that yes, they were in non-compliance. And instead of allowing the judge to make a ruling to force them to come into compliance, they instigated. They were the one that brought to the attention of the plaintiffs that was suing them the idea that since the plaintiff wasn't looking for any money or other than just to try and get the government to do what they were supposed to have needed to do, the government was agreeing to enter into that agreement to do what needed to be done. So therefore, the claimants went along with it, agreed to enter into that agreement, only to find out later on that they were hoodwinked. To have the judge, the same very judge, Judge Naby, turn around when they went to her and said that the government is in non-compliance and they're refusing to abide by the agreement. So we want you to make sure that the government complies with the agreement as a minimum. Otherwise, the least that should have been done by that same judge was to rule according to law. That is that the government had already accepted a non-compliance status, a violation of the Constitution, and therefore the judge would have been within her rights, Judge Naby, to sanction the government and to demand that the government comply with the Constitution. But instead, what she did, give the government an exculpation. She turned around and said, well, she can't follow through with the request of the claimant because the claimants had already entered into that agreement, and she classified that agreement as a tumbling agreement. She went on for 41 pages of detailed information to try and justify kicking the people in case out of the court in order to give the government a exculpation so the government could go and do the job what they need to do when they were ready to do it on their own time. Now come Mr. Wade deciding to take the matter up in regards to the Section 90 violation, which was not, there was no ruling, so there could not be any estoppel, there could not be any res judicata because there was no ruling as regards to Section 90 compliance. But here come now the smart ass, Mr. Honduras, Justice Honduras, going to turn around while he was on open mic questioning from the previous judge, Navy, how did she dispose of that case before? And in his own words, she asked him, did you just ignore them? Because they're back in front of me now with the same matter, and he wants to figure out how to resolve it. So how did he resolve it? It took him how long after he had heard the case in total? How long it took him before he decided he going to throw out the case? He was ignoring it all the while. Within a week time, the plaintiffs were expecting to get a ruling. The week passed, the month passed, and other months passed. And then he finally made a ruling, which of course by now, because he had impeached himself, he should not be making any damn ruling in the first place. He should have been kicked out of the country because he was found to be in violation of his ethics, his judicial ethics. Okay? So at the end of the day, he got together. Okay, he brought in that same discussion that he had with Judge Neby. Judge Honduras had a discussion with Judge Neby. Well, it wasn't even a discussion because Judge Neby wasn't the one that was entertaining anything. He was the one that was trying to figure out or get some help from Judge Neby as to how to throw the damn case. Okay? But he turned around and embarrassed and put Judge Neby out in the open because both of them never knew that they were on open mic. Otherwise, they probably would not have had that conversation the way it was done. It would have been done on another occasion or some situation. But the bottom line is that the man went back into the court and lied to the person that was in front of him as the lawyer, telling the lawyer that what the lawyer thought he had heard from whoever he heard it wasn't so. It was a lie. And then the lawyer said, okay, well, if it's a lie and you decide it's a lie, then I'll accept your word. But the matter was already taped. And we have it on tape, and we have played it on tape before. That he impeached himself. He showed himself to be a conniver. He was asking Judge, Judge maybe ask him if right there in the court, Mr. Courtney was present. And he said no. Why would they have to ask about Mr. Courtney being present or not? Because they are working along with him to be able to get the case thrown out. He is the government lawyer and the lawyer on behalf of the Attorney General and others. So if he's around, then they can play hanky-panky with him and figure out how to throw Mr. Wade and his their case because they realize, okay, well, these people won't be able to fight the legal system and have this matter being exposed at a higher level for them to be sanctioned for their conduct. They'll just sweep it under the rug. Okay? And they'll just squash the case like they did the first one. Now they're squashing the second one on the basis of the first one, according to them, having been done correctly. Which Judge Neby herself in the first one said that anybody else could bring back the substantive case, but because of how Mr. Parker Smith, they had entered into that agreement as a tumbling agreement that she classified, she could not help them, which was a lie. She was the sitting judge. What the hell you want to tell me you can't help the person that you set up? Help to set up, to accept one situation that they will turn out eventually to not understand and being taken advantage of. While at the same time, all of this is happening under your judicial um, ruling or temperament to facilitate the government continue violating the very constitution that the government have already accepted that they were violating, and you want to exculpate the government to continue violating that very same constitutional prescripts. It is bogus, and they all don't know it, and that's why I agree with you what you said initially that they're playing hanky panky. Are you back, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Wade,
Mr. Chairman, I I will not say much, that I never said before. I've always said publicly that I have no ties to 2019 uh, a case, and it seems that on the end, um, all tied me into, like, I am a part of 2019. So my actual case, they just throw that aside. I
Ignore it.
haven't heard anything about my actual case,
They just ignore
right?
it, like you said.
So you said, Leonard and Gregory, you hear the man. Well, you ignore it, right? That's what
Yeah,
he
that's what he
told.
asked.
And
Well,
all I'm
there's no,
saying here, my people both at home and abroad,
where
I'm
is the
not saying
justice?
nothing out of the way that is not public. Whatever I am saying here is already public. So, and I'll say no more. And everyone has a right to voice their opinion. They have a God-given right that no one should shut them down. And I will pass it back to the chairman because he has a right to say what he has to say, like Leonard, like myself. Right, but I'll pass it back. I'll say no more. I have a lot that I want to say, but I want to wait a little bit more to for something else
Their
that is
processes,
developing.
their
Go
processes
ahead
will be done.
to pass it back over to you, Mr.
thank
Chairman.
you, Mr. Wade. I said this to explicitly say if I wanted personally to challenge his ruling, I can do that regardless of what he said. And for the fun of it, I will post it tonight. So anybody who wants to challenge it just has to edit it and put their name in. But let me go ahead and let me read it in the High Court of Belize constitutional challenge between, I will leave the name blank, and the Attorney General of Belize, first defendant, and the Election and Boundaries Commission, second defendant. Constitutional challenge statement 1. The claimant brings this constitutional challenge pursuant to the Constitution of Belize, asserting that the failure and or delay of the Election and Boundaries Commission, EBC, to review, revise, and propose electoral boundaries in accordance with constitutional requirement violates my fundamental right guarantee under Section 6 and 90 of the Constitution. Grounds of challenge. Section 6.1 of the Constitution guarantee that all persons are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. This includes protection against any state action that results in unequal or unfair treatment in the exercise of fundamental rights, including the right to vote. Number 3, Section 90 of the Constitution mandates the EBC to
Periodically.
periodically review
Mhm.
and revise electoral boundaries so that, as nearly as may be, the number of persons eligible to vote in each constituency is equal. This provision ensures that each citizen vote carries equal weight, a cornerstone of the democratic representation.
Mhm.
Number 4, the claimants assert that the EBC has failed to comply with its constitutional duty under Section 90 by delaying or neglecting to review and adjust electoral boundaries in a timely and effective manner. Number 5, the failure has resulted in significant disparities in voter distribution among constituencies, thereby infringing the claimant's right to equal protection under Section 6, as the value and weight of the claimant's vote is diluted compared to voters in other constituencies. Number 6, the claimant further contends that the delay undermines the democratic principles enshrined in the Constitution Preamble, Section 3C, which affirms that the will of the people shall form the basis of government freely elected by universal
No,
adult
I was in the middle of the
suffrage.
program right now.
Number 7,
Okay. Yeah, no, I need to talk to you too, man.
such infringement
You're gonna be
constitutes
home
a
tonight?
breach of the claimant's
You're home tonight, or
constitutional right
you're here
to
in Europe?
equal participation in the political
Okay.
process and to have
I'm
their
here for an
vote
hour and a half.
counted
Okay.
equally,
Okay. Thank you very much for the
free
call.
from
God bless
arbitrary
you.
or
Bye.
discriminatory dispersancy. Relief sought. The claimant respectfully requests the court to A, declare that the failure of or delay by the Election and Boundaries Commission to review and adjust electoral boundaries as required by Section 90 of the Constitution constitutes a violation of the claimant's right to equal protection of the law under Section 6. B, order the Election and Boundaries Commission to immediately undertake a comprehensive review and revision of electoral boundaries to ensure compliance with constitutional standards of equality and fairness. C, grant any other relief the court deemed just and proper to protect the claimant's constitutional right, including caste. Conclusion. The claimants submit that the Constitution requires timely and effective action by the EBC to uphold the fundamental democratic right to equal voting power. Failure to do so infringes the claimant's constitutional protection and undermines the democratic process. There you go, gentlemen. Anyone who knows about law and knows about the court system can walk right around the ruling of this judge and go back and file. Because, as I've been saying over and over again, if I was the one filing that matter, I would have filed it for violation of my constitutional right under Section 6 of the Constitution, equal protection by law. By doing this, the judge would have to rule on the merit, not procedural. He would have to rule per the Constitution. I go to you, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We I guess like I say, everything is public. We have certain uh, issues that we'll be bringing up, and we have I think up to July the 31st to let this judge knows our intention. Um, on that note, on that matter, like I say, it's so sad to see um, who is above the law, and it's so sad to see that when one's constitutional right uh, is been taken away. It's sad to see when one tries to execute their constitutional right. We see the actions of the system against that individual. It's public knowledge, and again, we see publicly displaying the bastardization of our constitution. We see the actions of this People's United Party government. So where does that leave a common citizen that that want to exercise their rights? Is it the fear that they are putting out there that that person have to think about? I think so. One have to think about their financial situation, um, and especially when you have a system that is stacked against that individual. So all these things, one has to think about, and although that individual, whoever he or she is, only trying to fight for their God given right, their constitutional rights, not nobody else's rights. I think that anyone should have the opportunity to say, well, the system, this is what the system is doing to me. And as per our constitution, it says that they shouldn't be doing it. What is so hard in the system to act in your behalf in terms of making sure that your constitutional rights are not being violated? Right? Isn't that what a court or a judge or a judiciary should be doing? I beg to differ, right? Um, and we see many occasions that when people are wrong, when they have done wrong to someone, we see the extent that these individuals, when it's blatantly wrong, you see the extent that these individuals that are being wrong goes to just to get their right, which is so sad. Now, is that person, will that person encourage to seek to seek their rights when they're seeing that if you're seeking your rights, this is what might happen to you. Now, what would you call such a system? I say no more. Um, like I say, whatever we are saying, whatever I say here, is Mr. Chairman, is being public, and I will not go over or beyond, right? I just want to say what is already there, public. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
Uh, I just want to read something here quickly. The Belize Constitution citations as regards to Part 1, Section 1, and Section 2, Part 1, Subsection 1, as well as Part 2, Section 6, Subsection 1, and Section 16, Subsection 1 and 2, and Section 20, Subsection 1, 2, 3, all the way through to 8, as well as Part 6, Section 88, and Section 89, and Section 90, and Section 91, and inclusive Part 7, Section 95 of the Belize Constitution. All those parts that I cited just now are the basis for an open and shut case that any judge in his right mind that is not exculpating the government or trying to protect his own personal contract, and that is a true judicious person, according to law, those are the constitutional facts on which they will be ruling in regards to this particular issue. These guys have no interest in dealing with the law. It's right there in front of them. It's not that they don't know it. They're kicking out these cases because they feel like the people that are bringing these cases don't have the substance enough to be able to go above these judges' head and have these judges being put, in compromised situation. They feel like they can dispense with these cases and nobody will be any more the wiser. Therefore, they dismiss your case under bogus pretense to justify the government being able to have a free ride or to be exculpated, even after they themselves declare that they're in violation of the law. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Again, I want to stipulate you cannot have a res judicata and an action that was not ruled on the merit, and you can hear what the good lady said. On top of the application was marked stayed. And you know why? Because the consent order was actually a promise estoppel. Anyone who wants to look up what a promissory estoppel is will understand that a consent order falls underneath of that. Both parties come together and they do a consent order, promise each other that this will be done. So,
Mr. Chairman, it can only be a true consent order if the consent are being fulfilled. If it's not being fulfilled, then it is not a consent order. It is not a legitimately consummated agreement.
you are
The
correct,
agreement must be
sir.
consummated.
You are
We're
correct.
talking about legal matters, and in legality, there's no such thing as an estoppel on a case that has not been judiciously disposed of. And these judges know that.
It's not a res
They're not
judicata
stupid.
and it's not a stop. It's
None.
a promissory estoppel when you have no mediation, no judge involved, just both parties come together and decide that.
And it's
There
not
is
in.
no
Oh, sorry.
ruling on the underlying merit. That is why the action is said stayed. And
But in
this
this,
good judge is
sorry,
smart because he knew when Mr.
into the
Wade took
flag.
that case back, he was forcing him to rule on the Constitution. So he ducked it and decided to go with what the young lawyer said, res judicata and estoppel, which was ruling and procedure. Procedure ruling is not on the merit, and you cannot block nobody from bringing back a case that is stayed based on procedural ruling.
Mr. Chairman,
So he knows that.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
for the public consumption right now, okay? The case was not heard as regards to its constitutional merits. The case, there is none of these two judges, neither Judge Neby or Judge Honduras, fulfill their judicial obligation, and the temperament of judges who are not suborning their offices to other outsider influence. That should not be happening at that level of the court system. And these judges know that. So they don't want this Mr. Wade or anybody else to take up this matter to a higher court than theirs, that is to say, to an appeal court, because they will look stupid trying to dispose of the case on technicality when it's a constitutional case. It is not just a regular tort case or a civil case. It's a constitutional breach, which the government has acknowledged doing. So why are they exculpating the government from meeting the government's obligation on behalf of the people? Their own personal interest. There's no other. And to try and say that he can't answer the constitutional matter of the case because the case was heard before is a lie, outright lie. He knows that the case was. If he go back and read Judge Neby's, you don't have to read the whole 48 pages, okay? Because, like I said, most of the 48 pages, as a ruling, could have been done probably within 3 or 4 pages at the most. She only put in those extra pages of all those citations of other cases all over the world about what she was speaking about, which had nothing to do with the merits of the case. That the and Shenanigan Godfrey and Courtney did. Then brought into the court a whole bunch of 600, 700, almost 800 pages of document that had nothing to do with answering the matter of the constitutional relevance of the case. These jackals know what they're doing, and the judges going along with them. Why? Because they don't feel like you guys know enough to be able to speak to the fact that they are misbehaving on the bench. Otherwise, they wouldn't want their case to go above them because, like I said in one thing that I wrote the other day, it is easier for the Belize High Court to be suborned than it is for the appellate court of Belize, and much less so the appellate court at the CCJ for final review in the regional jurisdiction. Then jokey ass like Mr. Courtney and then stupid judges like what we have that believes that they rule, maliciously and destroying for we judicial system in the country. They wouldn't want to find themselves having to be answering any of these issues in front of one appellate court or a final jurisdiction court, because those people up there, they don't have to suborn their office. They are more seasoned and more settled lawyers. They don't have to kowtow to no specific government contract that the government is holding over these judges there in Belize. And that's the problem we have. So, okay. I'm sorry. I yield.
Mr. Chairman, I have been asking, for some time now, and I'll be quick. Um, just for these guys to do the right thing, the right thing. And my other question is, why do they not want to do the right thing? Mr. Chairman, 2012, that is as far as I'll go. 2012, you have Mr. Edmund Marshalik,
Mhm.
the PUP attorney, PUP supporter, said to the then UDPs, and do redistricting, man, it's so easy to be done, and it's needed, it should be done, right? And that's 2012, Mr. Chairman.
13 years ago.
2019, you have the same attorney, lead attorney, Mr. Courtney. Another PUP attorney, another senator, a leader of government business, and all can go on with all the other appointments that he has, the chairs that he sits. Now, from then, Mr. Chairman, 2012, they know that it's needed. And this very same man, Mr. Chairman, said publicly after the 2020 election, when all the situation with the 55 of 2019 redistricting case, this very same attorney
Don't get it done.
says that for sure that right after the election they will do redistricting because it's necessary. That's the word that this man used. Now, Mr. Chairman, 2025, you have that same attorney, that same man with all the high power in this country, right?
Sitting in at the Prime Minister's
all the power,
sitting in at the Prime Minister's
paid by the taxpayers' dollars, right? To be doing bastardization, only to be doing the bid of Johnny Briseno, right? In not wanting to do redistricting. 2025, fighting in court. When I say back 2020, when he says from his very same mouth, venomously, it will be done. Now, what kind of a hypocrites are these people? Now, they could do whatever they want to do with me. They could jail me. They could do whatever they want. But this is what I got to say. What kind of a hypocrite do such a thing? Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just a little something on what Mr. Weir was saying just now. Addition. A little addition.
Go ahead, sir.
Not only did everything that you said was exactly true and correct, the man that was the Prime Minister, in his own words, came out and tell us that he was strategizing along with Mr. Courtney and all of his other advisors them on Christmas night, eating the leftover ham and turkey them. In his own words, he's come out and tell us that. Okay? That they were planning how to make sure that they get this date of the 13th of March to be the date for the election, and to not have to go back and do all these things that needed to be done before that election was held. The man was barefaced enough to come out and tell us all of that after the fact. He don't. I was going to use a wrong word just now, about a ketchup. But that's how these jackals they roll. Now they have another term already under the belt for so many months, and they still have not gone about getting it done. When the set could have been done, like I said, in less than 6 hours. Less than 6 hours. They have no intention to do it. That's the bottom line.
Let me say this To you, the people at home and abroad, and gentlemen, this ruling was a procedural ruling, and I will tell you why it was done this way. In fact, I will show why it was done this way. It was done this way to save the government and ECB. And you know what the ruling does? The
Intimidate.
government don't have to do redistricting if he don't want in the next 10 years. You know why? Because of this ruling. It will block any other case that anyone tries to present that challenge redistricting. That is why you heard what I read previously when I said I know exactly how to go about it. You can attack it by passing the redistricting and come at it differently for violating your equal protection right under Section 6 of the Constitution. That is how you can attack it. But let me show the scroll banner to you, the people at home, and you guys, so you can see what I'm saying is the truth. And I will read it. Okay? Can procedural ruling limit future constitutional challenge to redistricting? Yes. Procedural ruling can limit or even block future challenges to redistricting plans and constitutional ground. That's what they were after. And they got it by the ruling of Judge Sandura.
But if the ruling is bogus, they got it so far as the ruling is not challenged. Because that ruling can be overturned. And if the appellate court, local Belize appellate court, agrees with the government, that appellate court can be overturned to the CCG as well. Okay? So Belizeans need to understand how the system works. And even though the system is being bastardized, we still need to be able to fight back when we need to or can. We should not roll over and play dead, because these jackals are not going to cease and desist their behavior. After we're dead, they're still the flag way. That is the kind of mindset that these people have.
But you see what the ruling is doing. In its ruling, it's simply saying you, the electors, don't have the right now to challenge your government over this redistricting, which is set forth in your constitution. And the constitution is the law of the land. So
They are
that
just
ruling right
bamboozling.
there
It's
is
bogus
inconsistent
with the
with the
Constitution.
constitution.
And I'm afraid for telling that. Or I tell Judge Navy and Judge Honduras that to their face. That there are a bunch of cowards who are bastardizing for illegal system by misbehaving the way they are misbehaving just for a few dollars. Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's because of a few dollars, okay? Now that's a
Mr.
personal
Wade,
comment of mine, not a comment of the show. I know where guns are depend when I make that
Mr. Wade,
statement. Mr.
Mr.
Wade?
Wade,
Yes, so Chairman. Uh, like I say, I'm glad that the matter that you highlight the matter, and it's a sensitive matter, and like I say, we just hope that you know more people would start to speak up, and I I would like for someone to pick up the cause again, right? I would like for some other Belizean to pick up the cause, because it's necessary. Um, you know, we redistricting is way past overdue, right? Equal representation is way past overdue, right? I can't see for the hell of it how, you know, most Belizean cannot see that, and why most Belizean continue to support such a system, right? And I would say, right, that most of these elections, Mr. Chairman, that this government has been holding, and past government, are illegal elections. That's what I was saying. They're all illegal, as per our constitution, right? As per our constitution. But then again, who am I, right? The constitution seems that it doesn't hold any weight in the country of Belize. Um, Based on what I have seen, based on how the leaders are bastardizing our constitution, they don't care. They just do whatever they want to do, right? And they're getting away with it, Mr. Chairman. So, you know, I just hope and pray that one day that all these people are held accountable, right? Because, you know, if you're wrong, you're wrong. And I don't, like I say, I just hope that one day they all are
Great.
held accountable. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wade, can you proceed for a minute?
Yes.
Uh,
Um.
yeah, thank you, Greg. Greg,
Yes.
do you have that piece of tape with
It's so
Judge
it's so
Honduras?
sad. I would like that tape
When
bring to the one that
he sit on the bench and
you know
when he talk, he get off the bench and go and talk to Judge
so
Nady,
they
no?
could,
And
you
then
know,
come back and we
see
start
what
with
we, you
Logan.
know, the
You have
depth that
that piece of tape to play
that these
tonight before we leave off the show?
people, you know, would go to
And
just to
yeah,
do
we
the
made reference
things,
to it, and unless, I mean,
ju-
well, not unless, but I mean, if people could
just to do
actually
the
see
things that they, you
what
know,
we
are
were
doing to
talking
us,
about
you
or
know,
understand what we were talking about in context, then
whatever is
it would be good,
their
no?
mission,
Yeah, sorry, I'm
right?
sorry, Mr. Wade.
Like I say, you know, it's
Yeah.
sad,
Okay, yeah,
very sad.
take care. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Wade.
know if you have anything else you want to queue up. You know, I don't know.
People at home and abroad, and gentlemen, I want to say this, right? The government of Belize has been bent and taken away the fundamental rights, Section 3 through 19 and Section 20. This ruling sets a bold
Mm-hmm.
ruling
Mm-hmm.
because what this is saying in so many words, and we have seen this coming, we have seen it trying to happen with the 13th Amendment, we have seen it trying to come with the bail ban, and
Mm-hmm.
here we have a ruling. This ruling is actually taking away judicial review from you. It's as plain as saying you cannot challenge the government on redistricting, which is your constitutional right. How can you go for judicial review when that is being blocked by this ruling? And that's a constitutional right. Mr. Brackett?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to say more than anything else, it's a cancerous ruling, okay, because it goes to the heart of our democracy. And if Belizeans were to understand the significance and the depth of this type of bastardization, they should be all up in arms, okay? but apparently they don't seem to recognize what really is happening. And the judiciary is subordinating our judicial system to the whims of the administration. Now you have the administration wants to take over the executive powers of the country as well. For what reasons? Okay, let me say this to Belizeans. There's not 3 branches of your government, Belizeans. There's 4. There's the administrative, there's the executive, which are completely different from each other. There's the judiciary, which is now subordinating itself to the administrative, and which, according to the Prime Minister, if they get their will, do the Constitution, the executive will take on the power of I mean the I'm sorry, the government, the legislative under the present scenario with the super majority of the PUP is also under the control of the Prime Minister, because he is the head of he is the leader of the party with the majority people in the legislative, in the House, and he appoints the majority of the senators then. The administrative aspect of our government is not one and the same as the executive. Belizeans need to figure out how to get that in on their head, how to understand that, because that is what's coming at you next. If you don't know, you don't know, and at the end of the day, how you get hurt is immaterial, other than the fact that you get hurt. The executive is not the same as the administrative in our system of governance. The present government in power, administering the affairs of the country as the administration of the country, right? The government is trying to hijack powers that they're not presently in control of, but they're trying to use the people as sovereign citizens to demand that ability to be able to, under the sovereign citizen status, demand that the sovereign head of state yield to the sovereign citizens, so that they don't end up with a revolution like what happened in France. Remember you heard about the French Revolution? That's when the people of the country took on their sovereign powers as sovereign citizens and overthrew the sovereign. At that time, they used to have kings, right? Well, for we kings in Belize, for all intents and purposes, according to the new constitution as is being proposed, will be the politicians. And they will decide whether or not they allow any other person to win an election to kick them out of office, because that would not be tolerable. Because that's not how autocrats and dictators work. So they are setting a pace now to try and find a way to overthrow the present head of state, only for them down the line to get overthrown, and others will overthrow others, and the sequence will continue like we have in the republics. And as a matter of fact, like we have in Haiti, because where we are heading is not just a regular republic like the Central American republics, then we are heading into a much worse scenario. We're going to either become the 23rd district of Guatemala, as Guatemala has always wanted, and the United States have been supporting them and wanting to help them out with that. So when you get rid of the British, as we did by taking our independence, and by now declaring that we don't want to have any kind of vestiges of the previous status remain in our country, we are leaving ourselves exposed for any time Dick and Harry or Mary Jane or whoever else to come and just, take us over, suborn our government and just take us over. And people might think I'm just starting because I have a pair of lip on my face and I'm just running off. I don't know how much longer I got to live, but I wish I would be around when that part happened. Just to get the satisfaction to say, I'm telling you, on a bunch of idiots, and not try to follow through and look after oneself or help oneself, but in the wait to expect somebody to come and help you. Get off on the butt and start deal with reality. These jokers, they take on for fools. They rigged the election the last time, and thief over all the money from the treasury through all kind of different schemes and scams. And buy on the vote for $50 or $100. I want to feel like because I want to get to leave something on the pocket, ahead of the game. When they get bamboozled and rip off. I yield back, Mr. Chairman, because we're over time,
It's 9:20. Oh, we're over time. And I just want to do this. People at home and abroad, please listen to this.
Corruption is a vile disease that sucks and drains the health out of something good. Corruption in society is an evil moral infection that keeps community in a state of perpetual sickness. Corruption is a moral virus. It's so potent it leaves its host sick, lethargic, and unable to realize and accomplish all that a well person can. Where corruption thrives, poverty and not prosperity thrives. Wealth is grabbed into the greedy, grubby hands of those who get fat on the toil and labor of good people. Corruption benefits, only temporarily, those who participate in it. Government should be protecting us from the foul results of corruption instead of being the proponents and participants in corruption. When corruption is systemic, when it's a culture and a way of life, when corruption thrives, it destroys the health of the community and nation. Now let me tell you something. Defeating corruption is a very difficult thing. The love of money is the root of all evil, the Bible says. People who love money will do almost anything to get it. Those who choose to stand up against corruption, you need to know that we're going to be involved in a war. We will be threatened, vilified, intimidated, marginalized, and ridiculed. These kind of people who stand up against corruption will often feel alone, as if they are the problem instead of the solution. Corruption can only be defeated when enough people have had enough and decide to do something about it.
Thank you. With
Nice
that
presentation,
said,
Greg.
I say uncut. Mr. Wade, please do the closing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like you to, for the closing, I sent you a thing. I would like you to run that for me. That's my closing. If you can, thank you.
You sent me something, sir?
Yes, on Messenger.
On Messenger, I'm not seeing it.
It's there.
Okay. Let me see if I can bring that.
Thank you, real quick.
In the meantime, while I work on that, Greg, I just want to say a couple of words, not just so
Thank you.
the time. Belizeans at home and abroad, please, we're begging you, pay attention to what's going on in your country right now. Because if these jackals get the opportunity to hoodwink enough to the point where they could implement these changes that they want to change on the Constitution, it's not to our benefit as a general populace of the country. It's a scam and an agenda that they had in their back pocket long before they came up with this PCC, and even before the previous incarnation of the PCC, which was the Constitutional Reform Commission. Long before they came up with the Constitutional Reform Commission.
Mr. Wade, I can't pick it up at this moment.
Okay, it's okay.
Long before they came up with the Constitutional Reform Commission, they had these things in their back pocket. They wanted to achieve these objectives, but they don't know how to do it and do it in such a way that there's no kickback. Because in the first place, if they really, really succeed in doing what they're trying to do right now, What would stop the Guatemalans then from walking in and taking us over, or create some kind of excitement or internal problems to us that they will be justified to have military, engagement with us? That's what they've been hoping for years. They just haven't been given that opportunity. I know you Belizeans at home and abroad, the younger generations, have the opportunity to take this country forward to another few generations down the line, and you're sleeping at the wheel. And you expect to get to your destination? Out of here with that. God bless.
Thank you.
Belizeans at home and abroad. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for such a nice program tonight. Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Thank you very much, too. It's always a pleasure, Leonard and Greg, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure to sit in your company. You make it much easier for us to disseminate information to the general public. Thank you so much. And to our viewers and listeners, both at home and abroad, thank you for tuning in to our 316th edition of our Belizean Affairs show. And looking forward for Wednesday.
I was just going to say that.
may God continue to bless us. May God bless Belize.
Yeah.